After 4 years in Italy, Ibsen settled down to his life work, first in Dresden and then in Munich. His biography from this point on is more or less uneventful, producing a new play every 2 years. Ibsen's dramatic powers increased and his social criticism ripened along with Bjornson. He was considered Norway's greatest poet, but he maintained primacy as a dramatist. Honors heaped upon him, and with a prosperous income, Ibsen appeared as a frock coated and respectable middle classical individual. Almost entirely self inspired, Ibsen was a rare genius who required no outside influence for his work, unlike Bjornson, who lectured, made frequent public appearances, and wrote novels and plays as well as poems. Ibsen kept to himself as much as possible, consistently working and reworking his dramas throughout each 2 year period, rarely divulging even to his family the nature of his current writing. He single mindedly pursued his art just as he gave up painting in his youth for writing poetry and drama. He now stopped composing poems, eventually relinquishing even the verse from of his earlier plays for the prose of the late works. Harsh self analysis was one of his life principles. In each play, he expresses this constant introspection, always underscoring a thesis based on self seeking in Emperor and Galileo. For example, Julian fails to establish the first empire of pagan sensuality, then cast aside the second empire of Christian self abnegation. As a hero expires, he envisions a third empire where, in the words of the biographer Zucker, men were to find God not on Mount Olympus nor on Calvary, but in their own souls, wills, and senses. Ibsen himself once wrote in a poem that to live is to fight with trolls in heart and brain. To be a poet is to pronounce a financial judgment upon oneself. The Norwegian commentator Francis Bull, 1887 to 1974, sums up Ibsen's personal search. More deeply than ordinary man, Ibsen was built into a great genius and a shy and timid little Philistine in daily life. He quite often did not come up to his own heroic ideals and revolutionary their theories, but listened to the trolls' voices of narrow minded egotism and compromise, and then afterwards the genius in him aroused a judge without mercy. This over recurring fight meant to him lifelong suffering, but it was this drama constantly going on in his own soul that made him a great dramatist and compelled him again and again to undertake a penetrating self analysis. Ibsen died in 1906, his tombstone inscribed only with a hammer. The minor symbol alludes to a poem Ibsen wrote as a youth, ending with "Break me the way you heavy hammer to the deepest bottom of my heart." The verse is a succinct statement of the intensity of Ibsen's personal vision and of his dramatist art. Characters list. Hedda Gabler. Hedda is the daughter of the famous General Gabler. As a child, she was used to luxury and high class living. As the play begins, she is returning from her honeymoon with George Tasman, a scholar with good prospects but not as much money as Hedda is accustomed to. Her parent name is Hedda Tasman. Hedda is an intelligent, unpredictable, and somewhat dishonest young woman who is not afraid to manipulate her husband and friends. George Tasman is an amiable, intelligent, young scholar. He tries very hard to please his young wife, Hedda, and often does not realize that she is manipulating him. In fact, he often seems foolish for his age, and when he annoys Hedda, the audience has reason to sympathize with her. Tasman is hoping for a professorship in history, and at the beginning of the play, it seems that his one great rival, Alert Lovberg, a notorious alcoholic, no longer stands. In Tasman's way, Tasman was raised by his aunt Juju.